7 years, zero repeat champions. This is going to be the longest stretch in NBA history without a team winning at least two titles. OKC blow out the Denver Nuggets in Game 7 to set up a Western Conference Finals matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this your first podcast for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. Bit of a dud, but kind of what we expected, huh, Chris?
It's hard to call it a dud because if you're a Thunder fan, if you've been watching this team all season, you are ecstatic. And I think you're ecstatic for a couple of reasons. You're ecstatic that one, this is going to be potentially the youngest team we'll ever see to make it to the finals. Two, I mean, this is like a crowning moment for anyone who's been, rooting for SGA all season. He gets to face the other guy, the other MVP candidate, and lead his team to the conference finals. And I know I only said 2 points. There's probably a lot more to be excited about, but I think the biggest thing is the defense that we've seen all season long just be a terror against the league to really vault them up to where they are and to make them, not just a great team to this playoffs, a great team in this regular season, but I think a historical team defensively. And they showed up in such an amazing way. So a dud for the Nuggets, but major fireworks for the Thunder, and they're just one step closer to getting to where they haven't been in quite some time.
Yeah, for sure. I think the defense was a big thing. Like this Nuggets offense really made OKC's defense look pretty human throughout the this series, and we talked about it yesterday when we were previewing this game 7. And it felt like a moment. This is kind of where OKC's defense they need to rediscover how great they are, and that's exactly what they did. Because let's not forget, like early in the game, the Denver Nuggets had a double-digit lead. The Thunder were kind of looking a bit shell-shocked, looked like they didn't really know what they wanted to do, and then all of a sudden that defense just clicked, and everything just started to move in the direction of the Thunder, and then they ultimately were plus 30 in the second and third quarter, and that was the end of this game. They just took it to a level that pretty much only they can do, and just completely blew the Nuggets away. Yeah, of course, for Denver it didn't help. Gordon, like respect to him, he was out there, but he was
Yeah.
barely able to do anything. He was playing on one leg. It was so much easier for guys to get a step on him on the defensive end. He only put up 4 shots in -9 overall. He really couldn't have the impact that Denver obviously were desperate for, and ultimately this was just one step too far for them. But it was definitely a worry for the Minnesota Timberwolves seeing that defense rediscover itself in that game 7.
I think that I just got to give massive props to Aaron Gordon. Let's just start there. That he had a grade 2 hamstring strain. And to put that into perspective, that kind of injury, you are completely resting, doing no rehab, nothing at all, just like staying off of it for pretty much like at least 2 days. And then you could do some very light rehab, probably more massage therapy. And it's just all kind of like rest, relaxation for at least a week. So he would have been doing nothing for a week, medically speaking. Then you start rehab. He wouldn't have been on the floor for probably 6 to 8 weeks with this kind of injury, and he took the floor. Big props to
Yeah,
Aaron Gordon for sucking that up and really just trying to do his best for the team.
yeah. Like obviously, just to even add more context to that, like Steph Curry's hamstring strain was a grade 3, and he missed 4 straight games. So just to put
Yeah.
that into context.
And this, I think throughout this, I'd love to, if we could just like weave in some funny tweets or things we saw in reaction to these games. But I had to share this one while we're on Aaron Gordon. And someone said, shout out to Pick Up Poop on Twitter, but Aaron Gordon on one hamstring has more rebounds in game 7 than Jackson Hayes had the entire first round. Like Jackson Hayes
That's
catching
funny.
strays at this point in the season, it's crazy.
I love where
But
people's minds are at when they come up with that sort of stuff, you know?
and the biggest loss, I mean, he was still able to rebound the ball, but he just wasn't able to pressure the rim. He wasn't, creating. And obviously, they didn't have an opportunity to be in the clutch in this game. It was already garbage time by the time it was halfway through the fourth. But as we're just wrapping up this Nuggets run, the playoffs, And again, just lamenting his injury, but celebrating how much he's grown as a player, a move and shooter, a creator of the team, and a clutch player. This is a huge one. Aaron Gordon, the clutch this postseason, has shot 66.7% from the field, 75% from three, and he has not missed a free throw. That's how important he was to this Nuggets run. Um, so it's fitting that fortunately they don't have their guy. They don't have Mr. Nugget. And this is the end result.
Yeah, yeah, big blow. Obviously, they kind of. It's tough to say they overachieve because obviously they still have the best player in the league, but obviously everything that happened with Michael Malone going to 7 games against the Clippers. I don't know. There probably weren't too many people that were really believing that they were going to go 7 games to Thunder as well. So I think they did put it up, but again, it's another early exit and not what they wanted. They go out the same exact same stage as they did last season, and that's definitely something that it's going to be disappointing for them, disappointing for Jokic, and might just make them feel that there's a need to make some major moves. It's not like last year or the last 2 years where they have a lot of guys whose contracts are up. It's more just so about making moves around the roster, around the margins, which is all they can really afford to do.
I don't know. Okay, so I've seen some talk on that, and I know that's very common of like, okay, where did we go wrong? Is our roster broken here? Do we need to do something different? And I actually want to push back and kind of, share some hope on this roster because just looking at what we got out of a Julian Strawther. Did he do it consistently throughout the playoffs? No. But this has been his first real shot to prove it. And I think he's had some great moments. I think Peyton Watson, I mean, you see how impactful he can be on the boards, impactful he can be defensively. And I think there's some hope for that shot. And there's some room for him to be into this offense. And I think those two guys in particular, how good they've been has been surprising. The amount of minutes that you think you can give them is surprising. And I think that they can continue to grow. And Christian Braun, I think one takeaway for the Nuggets this season and the postseason is Christian Braun is absolutely the wing that should be beside Nikola Jokic. Losing
Oh yeah,
KCP,
lock him up, block Christian Brown up
absolutely,
for sure.
absolutely. The shot. I mean, he was probably the most prepared this game. 7 of 14 from the field. His shot kind of fell off throughout the game but his quick start was initially 2 of 3 from the 3-point line, but no one shot was falling this game. But he ended with 19 points, and the defense that he provided throughout this whole series, this whole playoffs, has again been fantastic. So I think I still think they're in the same position where they don't have the assets to make big moves, unless Michael Porter Jr. Let's talk about him real quick if we're going to talk about any blowing anything up. I think I'm excited about the young guys. I'm still disappointed in MPJ. This is a game where he needed to step up. He needed to provide the spark. He didn't have it. Again, 2 games in a row.
Yeah, the bigger problem with that for them is I think they might have missed their shot in moving him. Maybe I think last year might have been the more valuable time to move him on.
Yeah.
But if you could find a way to maybe turn if you could turn him into like maybe two like kind of solid good role players, maybe that'd be something that they could consider. I saw a mock just quickly there. I think Bleacher Report had it out. It's like they could turn MPJ into like Jeremy Grant and like Robert Williams the third. Like that would be an amazing trade for them. If they could pull something like that off, that would be next level. But like something along those margins, like two guys who can both play like even if it was only two guys who are only good enough to play like 15, 20 minutes a game, but impactful minutes, like that would be, I think, maybe an upgrade on an MPJ.
Yeah. That again, there's gonna be like deeper off-season talks, and we know the Trailblazers are gonna be at the center of all of them, given their depth at multiple positions. Um, but another guy I want to talk about too. It's been so polarizing all season long for Russell Westbrook in Denver. They've really embraced him. He's brought a serious energy that I think fueled them throughout the season. I don't think that they're necessarily here without him. I believe that. I believe there's portions of the season where this Nuggets team just felt like they were just trudging on through, and you needed sparks of Russell Westbrook to get you through that. But he objected. This was the series that you expected him to have. It was going to happen, and he finishes with a negative 92 plus minus in the series. 9.9 points per game, 35% from the field, 22% from three, and a negative assist to turnover ratio. And I think it's that last part. It's that last part for me. I felt like buy myself I could buy myself into thinking that he was going to at least be a playmaker. He was at least going to get the second unit set up in offense and he was going to stabilize things a little bit. But against a Thunder team, like it goes both ways. I think I can give a lot of credit to the Thunder for pressuring all of the ball handlers on this team, but there's just too many mistakes from him. Your veteran cannot be making those sort of mistakes, and especially in this game, just totally unforced turnovers that continue to swing the momentum away from the Nuggets. He wasn't the spark they needed. He was honestly kind of a head scratcher at times when he was coming into the game, and you needed to steal momentum. You needed to get something going, and he just threw the ball away. And it was tough to see that happen in this series. And I think that leads us to question, he taught the young guys some intensity. He injected that, and hopefully some of that stays with this team. But unfortunately, there's just not enough shooting around him to justify him being here, especially in a series like this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a story as old as time. Unfortunately, Russell Westbrook, great player. He's had a great career, but these days, especially in the playoffs, he's often more likely to make losing plays for you than winning plays, and then unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. And ultimately, what we saw most of in this series, and at times in that Clippers series as well, which is tough, but unfortunately, that's kind of the way that it's gone for Russ, just the style of player that he is. And you don't want to criticize too much. He's a former MVP in his prime, one of the most fun guys to watch on the basketball court. And unfortunately, now he's just his impact. I mean, he's been tried everywhere. Unfortunately, when it gets to the playoffs, he just doesn't have it, and it's sad. It's tough.
Yeah. I think it's time to talk about some Thunder because we can jump into, why didn't Jokic take more shots? He only took 9 shots, only had 20 points, wasn't really able to get anything going, wasn't super impactful. And I think be a layup for us to be like, well, he should have done more, he should have been more aggressive. But I think the reason why was just how one physical this Thunder defense was, but how they covered him.
Hmm.
Alex Caruso. Now, a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on social media talking about how, that's not what he did was not legal. What he did was not legal. The playoffs are a different sport, and that's a conversation in and of itself. But I mean, Caruso's in legal guarding position. Yes, he is playing more physical, and I mean, he got a few calls. The Thunder got a few calls that when Jokic was able to bait them, but the way that he held his own in the post and the way that the Thunder could consistently send help and help the helper on the weak side, there was just never any opportunity for Jokic to get anything going. You could turn baseline, oh, their Chet's there. You go middle, okay, there's another guard there. You try to pass it out, okay, they're scrambling back, and then there's no one open. There was never any advantage, and it was reminiscent of what you saw in the regular season when they would deploy that 5-man guard lineup, and no one ever you could double wherever you wanted, and the second that ball swings, there's someone there, and there's just never an advantage. And they did that all game long, and the way that they brought that in this game 7 situation, that was incredible. I think that was my favorite part when you saw them roll out that 5 guard lineup. Meanwhile, you're looking at a lineup of Aaron Gordon, Jokic, MPJ, much bigger team. And guess what? They didn't get out rebounded this game. They won the boards, and they were still able to create massive turnover differential. It was crazy to see.
Yeah, I think like watching that game today, the way that the defense just reignited, the way that this team was built around defense the whole time, and it started out bad in this series in that game 1 when they didn't trust their defense to hold out in the final moments of the game, and that ultimately cost them the win in game 1. And then throughout the series, it just kind of looked pretty human, pretty normal. To see that like bounce back in the way that they did it today, and to see them all so locked in on that end, that like kind of instantly kind of puts OKC back in as like the favorites for the title again. Maybe they never left, but I think in my mind, watching that defensive performance today, it has them back in as the favorites for me.
Yeah, yeah. And what they got back to too was the playmaking. They scored 37 points off of turnovers created. 37 points and got to the bucket. 42 points in the paint. I want to say most importantly here too, is welcome back Jalen Williams. He looks better. And I think that a lot of this team loves to feed off of defense. When they're getting turnovers, when they're getting stops, you see them get energized. You see them get up the court. You see them get into offense a lot earlier. You see Jalen Williams hitting that hole a lot faster. And he had a huge bounce back game. This wasn't just important that they obviously you need to advance. You need to win that game seven, but the way they won it, I think, is so important because they won it based on their identity as a defensive team. And Jalen Williams got his swag back.
Mhm.
He can look himself in the mirror tonight, going into this next series, and be like, okay, I'm still that guy. I'm still that second star. I can still carry this team offensively when Shea's off the floor. And the plays he was just making, like you can tell that he got that back.
Yeah, yeah, no, we got to give credit. Maybe he listened to the pod yesterday, heard us kind of call him out a little bit, but
Sure.
dude stepped up like we said they needed him to do it, and that's what he did. And like it came off moments like defensively, he got steals, other guys got steals, and he was straight out there running straight to the rim. And like, yeah, you could call that those are easier buckets, but that sometimes you need those to get back in the groove and just. And defense is what makes it seem great, and we saw that. And defense goes to offense, and that whole thing just came together. This was like a prime. This is like such a Thunder win, and that's what was so great about today. This is a Oklahoma City Thunder win. This is exactly their archetype all day long.
So does this give Shea the MVP?
I
Obviously, the
think
votes are already in, right?
I think it was his before, but yeah, I do I think it's so dumb that they waited this long to not announce it. I don't know. Are they going to do it before game two or before game one of the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't know when they're actually due to announce it. I feel like TNT have announced the finals awards, so they actually have the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's going to be weird if they're going to announce that either Jokic or Shea are the MVP. But yeah, I don't know why they've waited this long to announce it. It makes it feel like it could be rigged and like people are getting in votes after we watch this series. Like
We
that's
we don't need
like
any more rigged conversations, man.
they open up those sort of queries by waiting this long to announce it. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was his before. It's going to be interesting to see the way it goes. Maybe this will bounce it back in Jokic's favor. Maybe people they think it, even though this does not actually have an effect, like the fact that Jokic did so well with that such a mediocre team, that sort of angle of it. But yeah, I think the MVP is Shay's.
Yeah. Um, where what are we thinking about this upcoming series? I know we really want that Timberwolves next series to happen. Um, but looking at a Thunder team that just got their confidence back, that just showed how good they are defensively, showed their playmaking. I'm I'm a little worried about how they're going to match up against the Timberwolves, a team that has a guy like Rudy Gobert on the floor, a guy who's been played off the floor before when you can play small, and the absolute devastation that the Thunder can unleash when they decide to play small is scary. I guess I'll just start there. That's the first place I think of because seeing how even with the difference that you can think Gobert can bring to the floor compared to Jokic, bend the paint. We saw OKC be incredibly dominant in the paint tonight, but I'm worried about how he's going to get stretched out if they decide to play small.
Yeah, I mean, we thought this could happen in the Lakers series. It didn't. We thought this could happen in the Warriors series. It didn't. Looking at this OKC series, I think it most definitely could happen. I am also that was also one of my biggest fears when like thinking about this matchup is what are we going to get from Rudy Gobert? And it's just always going to be a fear because you always believe there's that element of it. And OKC, if anyone's going to be able to play him off the floor, you got to believe that's going to be this OKC team. But even outside of that, I'm looking at their other guys. I'm looking at their depth. Like the Timberwolves are not getting close in this series if Dante DiVincenzo doesn't step up big time. He's really struggled in these playoffs. He is shooting 33% from the field, 25% from deep. As much as it's on, like obviously it's all about Ant and Randle, but Dante is going to have some really big games if the Wolves are going to make some noise in these finals for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on your boy Dante, and he hasn't shown up consistently yet. Um, I think it just all boils down to Anthony Edwards. It's going to boil down to how much he can step up his game against this perimeter defense. I mean, this is going to be a really tough challenge. This is going to be a really, really tough challenge. The way that the Thunder, when they decide to hone in on one guy, I mean, they can blitz and recover better than anyone. They can send two better than anyone. And the backline help is better than he has seen in the playoffs yet. And this is going to be the ultimate challenge to see if he can finally make it to the finals this early in his career. But it's going to be a tough task for him. Um, Mike Conley as well. Is
I
Mike
think
Conley going to hold up in this
I think he
physical
could get
series?
destroyed. I think Mike Conley could get. I think they're going to make Mike Conley really look old and make it really look like a guy that needs to retire. I'm super worried about what he can contribute, and that's why I think there's an opportunity for maybe a guy like Dante to get some more minutes. I think Mike Conley could struggle enormously in this series. He had a nice little flash in that last closeout game against the Warriors where he put up I think 14 points, hit some trees. But yeah, I think OKC could really make him be pretty non-existent when in his minutes on the floor, even at a similar level to what they might be able to do to Rudy Gobert. But just to go back on Ant. I'm with you there. Like I'm such a believer in Ant. I love Anthony Edwards. I knew from the minute he was drafted that he was going to be a player, and I do believe he's going to be one of the great players over the next 10 years. But I just don't know that he's ready. I haven't liked how he's performed in closeout games so far in these playoffs, and I've noticed there's moments where he's just a little bit lackadaisical with his handle and his concentration. And maybe you can allow that against these Lakers where they weren't really putting up a challenge and the Warriors without Steph, it was kind of a little bit easy to take the foot off the gas. So maybe it's that side of it. But see moments where he's just been a bit lackadaisical, tries to do that against OKC, he'll get destroyed. And then also his shooting at the rim has been very disappointing in these playoffs. That's something I've definitely noticed. And it's going to be harder for him against this OKC team. Like, you're always going to have, like, the guards are capable of blocking shots on this OKC team. They're going to have likely two bigs on the floor for a lot of periods. So it's going to be even tougher. You know what he's shooting on layups in the playoffs?
Oh, I don't want to know. Let me see. 40.
48.7%.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's really not good enough. And if that holds up against OKC, I don't see how the Timberwolves even turned this into a series. We saw them in this position last year. They got beaten in 5 games. You'd like to think that they can grow more, but my fear is a little bit that Ant is just still a little bit too raw. And if Ant is too raw, then this team isn't going to do it.
I think the focal point of this year is also going to be around Julius Randle.
Hmm.
Can he keep? He's been doing really well here. He's been doing in these
He's been
10
amazing,
playoff
and
games.
I've loved watching him in these playoffs. I'm so happy for him. I hope he
He's
can continue.
he's shooting 51% from the field. 51% from the field. Like hats off to Julius Randle for really turning things around and honestly just scrapping that narrative about him in the playoffs, which I mean, anyone who looks back, the caveats were there. Like he was the only like focal point at the time. Like he was injured, weren't able to really see him at his best. So this is gonna be another big challenge for him here because one thing that we saw from the Nuggets is your Aaron Gordons, Michael Porter Jr.'s, or Christian Bonds, the way they were able to crash the boards and the other guys giving them the opportunity to create. If Julius Randle can, start to create advantages against some of these smaller guys, who will probably let him go one on one. They probably want. I mean, traditional wisdom would tell you, okay, Julius Randle in the post, that's fine. Julius Randle one on one face up, that's fine. But if he can get himself going, if he can really respond to that sort of coverage, that that's going to be a big boon for the Minnesota Timberwolves to get themselves going. Because I think that, like I said, everything's going to stem from Anthony Edwards. I think they're going to show a lot of help defense his way, and it's going to be up to someone else to figure it out early on. I don't have faith in Mike Conley in this kind of physical series.
No.
I really I question Jaden McDaniels. I
Mm.
still do. Are we gonna get a off night here and there? Maybe he'll show up from the corners, he'll show up. But Julius Randle, I really look to him. If they're gonna have a hope here, he's got to really continue to elevate his game because his numbers are still surprising. 89% from the line, 35% from three. And he's doing this all on volume on 17 shots a game, almost 38 minutes per game, and 24 points. Like it's been his best run yet. It's been his best run.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. It's great to see him bounce back since he obviously had that injury late in the season. Since he's come back, he's been great and it's fit like a glove. And I want to toot my own horn. And I think we both said this when this trade went down and we first reacted to the Timberwolves Knicks trade. I made a point of saying I feel like this could end up being a win-win trade, and so far it's exactly that. Both teams are in the finals of their respective conferences, and both teams are looking at just as good, if not better, than they did last year. So I mean that's the win-win there. We got to get over that. But yeah, Randle for sure. If he can keep this up, that definitely gives the Wolves a shot, gives them something different, gives them something other than Anthony Edwards to be able to rely on, and that will be great. On the Thunder side of things, I think they're only shot 32.3% from deep against the Nuggets. If that can continue at that sort of pace and that sort of percentage, that might just open up the window just a little bit for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not that they've been shooting amazingly from deep, but that's an area where if you can keep that percentage low, yeah, they still have great players like a Shea who really thrive, attack, getting in the rim, and they're going to get turnovers and turn that into points. That like 3 point shots, not everything about OKC, but that's an area where I think if they can outperform them from deep, that's just gives them a little bit of a more hope, and that could be something that they can target and look to take advantage of.
It was crazy how often they were missing. Because at a certain point, the Nuggets were just hoping that that continued. They're able to just pack the paint. They're able to get in the zone, and they were just leaving people wide open. They were leaving Jalen Williams wide open. They were leaving Case Wallace wide open, Alex Cruz wide open, who did cash in quite frequently.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's a hope, right?
Yeah, big time.
When you
That's a
play a
hope. Yeah.
team this good, and it's kind of similar to the Celtics, right? When the Celtics get things going, they can start getting downhill. It's like, well, you got to leave somebody open, but they were just so good at shooting that they became unbeatable. And I think the Thunder are on the precipice of unlocking that because I feel like they've just consistently, slowly gotten better and better as they've gone on in the playoffs. They're just trying to figure themselves out and get their swag back, as they would say. And if they find that, I think that that's when they just become unbeatable, and that's when sweeps happen. Because that's the
Mhm.
one piece. They're one of the best shooting teams. They have been for the last 2 years in the league. And if they can just recapture that, because they're getting all the shots they want, they're just not falling. And I think they have good process. They have faith in those shots falling. I don't see that continuing. I really don't. Especially if you have Rudy Gobert on the floor. If he's going to be out there, I think they're going to continue to try and spread things out and launch from three and just get more shots up.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think it looks like, yeah, obviously watching that game today, you're like, yeah, okay, see, they got their swag back. They know what they're about. They're ready to kick on in these conference finals. Could be the case. The other hand, we've seen moments where Mark Daniel, or however you say his last name, Mark Dagnall, that's how you say it, I think.
No?
Yeah, he has made some bad decisions. He's failed to make adjustments. Denver were able to take advantage of that. We've seen plays from certain moments from guys like Jalen Williams, guys like Shea. They've been unable to deliver in the moment. And that's where the windows open up for the Minnesota Timberwolves if they're capable of taking advantage of those in the way that the Denver Nuggets did. That will lead to some wins and maybe just that element of doubt. But I think if OKC are really locked in and Ant is unable to reach the heights that I think he's might be still just a little bit too young to reach. I think we could see a sweep here, but I think I go OKC in six, just to say that OKC are still a young team as well that are going to make some mistakes too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think that the one thing you got to point out between these two teams and what they just went through, someone's got rest. The Timberwolves got a little bit more rest. And we saw what happened when they had more rest than the Warriors. They got a little casual.
Hmm.
And some people would say, oh, they're playing down. But sometimes the energy is just not there. And you
Hmm.
know what kind of energy. I know that the Thunder are going to walk into the building and bring that same energy every time. Are the Timberwolves going to do the same? Did they learn? Did they learn? And this is kind of part of the journey, right? This is part of the journey of seeing how this Timberwolves team, how Ants, and how they're going to grow. If they bring that same energy that they brought to close out the Warriors, and they don't just kind of slug along and wait for someone to take the first punch, then that's a different team. I'm just not sure night in, night out how often that team shows up. I know maybe the Thunder are not going to hit those shots night in, night out, but that energy that will be there, that defensive tenacity will be there every single night. So I think I'm right there with you. I'd say six as well. I'd say Thunder at
Yeah.
six.
I think it might help the Wolves a little bit that they're on the road. I think in this, obviously, OKC had the best record, so they've got home advantage here. I think it might benefit the Wolves just a little bit to be on the road,
Be
start of
uncomfortable.
this series. They'd be that little bit more uncomfortable, be that kind of be the bad guy and go in there and ruffle some feathers. I think Ant likes kind of that sort of style. I think that could benefit the Timberwolves, even though obviously playing OKC, like OKC, that arena is an absolute cauldron. Like you feel like it really feels like all the fans are in the same colors. It
Yeah,
feels
it's
like they're
crazy.
right in on top of you like that. Like it's a really really tough place to go. But I think that's why I like the idea of the Timberwolves being able to win a couple of games. I think they might thrive kind of as an underdog and as kind of the villains almost playing on the road against this top seeded OKC team.
Yeah. Who's your X factor for each team?
I already said it for Minnesota. I do believe it's Dante DiVincenzo, even though obviously I
Dante.
think Naz Reid could be big too because
That's mine.
he might have to
Yeah.
play some more minutes. Of course, if Gobert does get played off the floor, it could be Naz Reid. But I'm thinking Mike Conley might also get played off the floor, so that's where Dante might come in too.
Yeah.
And then with OKC, I mean, it's tough not to look at a guy. It's tough not to look at Jalen Williams again. Can he be a bit more consistent in this series? If he can
I feel like
consistently
he's got to
put up
be the
20
factor.
points,
He's got to
if
be
he can
part of
put,
the factor.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. And then I guess you look at the other guys like take your pick: Caruso, Aaron Wiggins, Casey Wallace. Like it could be any one of them on any given night. I feel like it can always be one of them delivering. And maybe I always look at Caruso. I think Caruso is such an X factor all the time.
I think I go Caruso because seeing him and how he played against Jokic, I think they could deploy a very similar defensive scheme against Randle and try to take Randle out of this early, take him out of his rhythm early,
Mm.
and when it's one of those things where a big man sees a guard like that, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to work here. And Caruso has shown us, how often he can take the ball away, how often he can get you in the wrong spot that you don't want to be in, and how often the Thunder can take advantage of that and create turnovers, especially off of a guy like Randall.
I
They're doing
think
it to Jokic.
OKC could turn Randall back into just the mean, lean dribbling machine. I think we could see that happening.
Yeah. But Nas Reed on the other end, he's gonna be huge. We've seen him have some big games, big series, and really surprise us. And I want to see that here. It's gonna
Mm.
be hugely important when they go small that Nas gets out there, he spreads the floor, and he starts to attack those mismatches. And we've seen him do it before, and we haven't seen him do it consistently this year yet. But I think he needs to cash that in. He needs to come in this building and he needs to really punish those small ball lineups and he needs to provide the spacing that they won't have with Gobert on the floor. And they're gonna have to go away from Gobert at certain points in the game. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to earn that contract. I think a lot of people aren't too enamored with the idea of paying him big time money, but delivering in a Western Conference Finals, delivering big performances, and putting this team in position to win. That's a way. That's the easiest way to earn that big paycheck. And then Naz Reid, 100% is going to have to do that in this series if he can continue to hit his shots. He's been great shooting the three ball so far in these playoffs. He can do that. Maybe you might see a little bit more volume on his shots in this series if he can be that consistent offensive performer and do like just be a solid defensive presence. That can make a difference for this Wolves team, and that could be ultimately the difference for them winning a couple of games or them getting swept. It could definitely come down to that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it. I hope it's going to be a good series. The last year it kind of felt like a bit of a dud. Denver, or sorry, Dallas were fairly dominant against the Timberwolves. Obviously, it felt like it was over after Doncic hit that step back over Gobert. I think that was in game two, right, for the game winner, and it felt like it was over then. They're, OKC haven't been here before. Let's see what sort of impact it has on them. The Timberwolves have been. Maybe they can show up. Maybe they can show that impact. We already discussed the Eastern Conference Finals matchup between the Pacers and the Knicks, so you can check that out. We talked about that yesterday, so you can check that out if you want to hear about whether or not the Knicks can get the job done this year after falling to the Pacers last year. But conference finals are set, as I said before, another new champion and potentially a first time champion. If we're talking, I know that the Sonics technically have a title, but there's a 75% chance a team that has never won a title
Mm.
is going to win their
Yeah,
first title this year. And even though apparently the NBA is in a bad spot, stuff like that is always very cool. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Chris, thanks so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Remember, we're everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
peace out.